I think that the way to characterize India in the way that historian Ramchandra Guha does is to say we are a 50-50 country. The glass is half full and half empty at the same time. The half full is what Pradeep spoke about. We have over 95% of kids going to school. And that fact is well known, that we are almost close to universal enrollment of kids in primary school. The other facts which are less known, which just follow, is of the following type. If you looked at the enrollment in 8th grade 10 years ago, you would find that of an age cohort of about 25 million kids, we have 25 million kids in every age group in India. Out of 25 million who could have gone to 8th grade, 10 years ago, the number was 12 million. If you look at recent government numbers, that number is close to 24 million. So not only are kids enrolled in school, but they're staying all the way till 8th grade. And the staying all the way, I think, has two sides. One is that you have many years of schooling, and your parents, many, many parents in India who didn't have that, feel that your life is now going to change. But if you're in school for 8 years, but your life does not change in the way that people expect that it would, then the child is caught between rising aspirations of parents and somewhere the defeat that Pradeep spoke about. At 15 or 16, you can't be defeated. You have a whole life ahead. So I think that the work that Pratham is doing is really to convert the years of schooling into years of learning. And it's not just an Indian thing. If you look at the work, I'm sure there are many economists in this room, we often used years of schooling as a proxy for whatever education is supposed to do to you. But there's no one in this room, for sure, like my friend JJ, right? Said that he read his first book at age 5. We have in India, out of the 25 million kids who are probably in 5th grade, less than half, forget about reading a book, who are able to read even a page. And there's no one in this room who was not reading by grade 5. That's why you're all here. So the real job that we have is, how do you solve this problem? This is a problem that's getting in the way of many great things that India needs to do. How do we solve this problem quickly? How do we solve it with the resources that we have? And how do we really show that big change is possible quickly? Now, I've been sitting at our table and people have been asking me tough questions. So one of the tough questions was, so what does Pratham exactly do? And thanks to the chicken, I had quite some time to think about how I'm going to say this to you. So I think we do 4 things. And I use a small incident that happened to me. And when it happened to me, I didn't know I would use it as much as I have. But I think it illustrates. So we were in a village in UP, which is India's biggest state, most backward educationally. And one of the first things we do as Pratham is to understand what the situation is where we are going to work. So we do a little what we call a village report card, which basically means asking all the kids in the village whether they go to school, and then giving them a little test of reading and math. And before you do this, it's customary that you go to the village headman, the sarpanch, and tell him that this is what you're going to do. So we did that. In this particular case, the village sarpanch he had a big milk business. He had a lot of livestock, and he was very busy milking his cows and buffaloes. And so when I said to him, this is what we're going to do, he said, oh, survey, please go ahead. There are so many surveys in India. He didn't even look up. 3 days later, when every kid in the village has been asked to read and to do a little bit of math, and a lot of people in the village had helped to do this, we came back to the sarpanch because we wanted to have a village meeting in which we could discuss this. Because we believed that if people understood the problem, many more solutions would emerge. Went back to the sarpanch, very busy man. Don't think that you guys at Microsoft are the only busy people. They had, he had a big business to run. And he said to me, yeah, so you've done your survey, where shall I sign? Daskhat kahan karna hai? He said in Hindi. Now, it turns out that on our village report card, there's nowhere to sign because the report card isn't going anywhere. It's going to stay right there. So I said to him, there isn't anywhere to sign. So the man says to me, he's still not looking at me. He says to me, please ask your superiors, because you probably don't know. And he didn't say it, but what he implied is one of the only things that defies gravity is data. Because in India, data always goes up. It doesn't stay where it's supposed to. Now, I like to think of myself as a selfless person, but I too have an ego. So I said to him, I'm the boss, thinking that this would impress him. Now he looks at me and he says, so if you are the boss, why are you running around in villages? Which is actually, I think, a fair statement. And then he looked around and then he said, Aapki to gaadi bhi nahi hai. You don't even have a car. So how can you be a boss? You're running around in villages, you're collecting data. But the good thing about all this, and I'm saying this to you because I think a lot of people here work with data, just to show you what perceptions of data are at the ground level, at least in my country. And at least he looked at me. So now we began to engage. It took a little bit of this drama to get his engagement. So he said, so what is this whole thing about? And I said, well, 100 kids, let's say, in your village, they go to school, most of them go to school. He said, I already know that. It's you guys who come from outside who don't know that. A survey, by the way, according to him, was things that we have to tell you guys because you don't know anything because you live in the city. Okay? So then the next piece that I said was, out of these 100 kids, about 60 can't read. And so he said, "Wo to jhoot hai." That's a lie. Why is it a lie? Because, most people who do surveys don't come into the village and go, home to home. They go to the tea shop because, you've come a long way from wherever you've come. You need some tea, you sit at the tea shop, you meet a few people, you fill out a few forms, and that's it. And then you send it up. By this time, a big crowd had gathered, and everybody said, well, this is not how they did it. So his next point was, if all these children go to school, this can't be. There's a difference between it being a lie and it can't be. Why can it not be? Because he had the same belief as the economists for a long time had, that if you go to school, you've got to learn something. Maybe it's not as good as you want it to be, but it can't be. But by this time, we had his full attention. His cows and his buffaloes were on the side, and he was beginning to engage. And I think I learned one of the important lessons there, that you have to have engagement. If you're going to deal with something, at least in India, just a report is not going to do it. I have to feel the problem. I have to understand the problem. So what was the way to convince him? He came up with it himself. He said, let me go and figure it out myself. And he walked down the street. Of course, this was not a random sample because there was a whole bunch of kids, parents, the whole village watching how this drama would turn out. And it was important for me to win this drama because otherwise I wouldn't be here telling you the story. It has to have. All Indian movies have a happy ending. So I had to have an ending that worked. So he walked down the village and every child that he met, he asked the kid to read. And I must say, he persisted because he had a hypothesis in his head which was different from the one that I had. And by the 6th kid, he turned to me and said, oh my God, hey Bhagwan, this is really a problem. And the reason to tell you this whole long story is I think it's when you accept the problem that I think the next thing follows. If you produce a report, we produce these big reports called the Asar reports. And part of the reason it's taken several years for it to take hold is I think you have to accept that there is a problem and then you're ready to start thinking about solutions. So between the Sarpanch and the work that we do, I think the first thing that we do is you've got to understand and accept there's a problem. And very often you need to feel it. You need to do it firsthand to understand it. The second thing is, having seen the problem, the natural reaction of everyone, including my Sarpanch, was to try and solve the problem. And I think that's more or less what we've been doing as Pratham for the last 10, 15 years. Now, as Pradeep described it, what is the problem? Let's look at the human angle of this problem. We are in a classroom. Let's say it's grade 5. And assume, which many people don't do, but assume that the teacher is actually working hard. She's a 5th grade teacher. She is doing what most 5th grade teachers in India do, which is she had the 5th grade textbook in her hand, and she's trying to teach the 5th grade kids the 5th grade stuff, which is a very standard thing to do in India. The kids, just the front row is actually paying attention. Everybody else is not. So the teacher, like any other good, normal human being, gets discouraged if the work that you're doing is not kind of having traction. So the teacher is discouraged. The parents are disappointed because they've been sending their kids to school. 50% of the parents, of the mothers in India, at least in rural India, haven't had much education themselves. But they can see that this is not going places. So teacher discouraged, parents disappointed, and most importantly, children disinterested. It's far better to just leave the class and go play cricket, because at least there you'll have fun and you'll have traction. Sitting in a classroom where people are talking to you, things that you don't understand are not going to make it. So given this situation, I think the idea that we had and the experiences that we've had over the last 15 years is you've got to change this substantially for people to feel that there is a way out of this. This situation is described by an economist at Harvard, Land Pritchard, as the big stuck. We're stuck in a big stuck. We've got to unstick ourselves. And we've got to do it with the resources that we have. And so essentially, I think, if I had to describe to you what Pratham does in terms of coming up with a solution, is the following. Most school systems in the world are organized by age and grade. So if you think about a grid where every row is a grade, and there's particular children of particular age in this each grade, and most school systems teach by rows. What we do is you assess the children in a very simple way, try to figure out, let's say for reading, can you read words, can you read sentences, can you read letters, can you read a slightly longer story, and think of those as columns. So what we've been really playing with for the last 15 years is to say, for a few hours a day, can you move away from teaching in the traditional way and move to teaching by columns, which essentially means that I'm going to teach the kids at the level at which they are. Give them appropriate activities, give them a little bit of materials, use the teachers that exist, whether they are in the school or whether they are volunteers, and see what happens when you start where the kids are, where they are, and move to a goal which is actually a doable goal. We've had tremendous success. I think this is a very common sense thing. When we read to our own kids at home, we pick books that the kids like and at the level of the kids. So I don't think we are doing anything dramatically different. We're just using common sense, stepping away from the prescribed grade level curriculum to say we first need to build foundations. And once you have a strong foundation, the kid has the confidence that they can move ahead. Parents feel that this is working. Teachers feel that they're going somewhere. Then there's a huge energy that is unleashed in the system. Doing this, and by the way, how many people in this room speak Hindi or understand Hindi? So substantial number. The method that we use, we call Kamal. And the word Kamal means amazing, wonder, and because we also want to be okay in the English-speaking crowd, we've given it an acronym saying combined activities for maximized learning. But we actually don't mean that. What we mean is Kamal karo, asar hoga. Do the Kamal and it will have an impact. And that's what we see. So after years of practicing on this, what we see is that today, even in a state like UP, which has very low reading levels for kids, 30 to 40 days can really transform the situation. It can take a class or a group of kids who, let's say to begin with, only had about 15% who could read at this level, within 30 or 40 days, are actually able to read most things. And you saw an example of Meera, who is not from UP, from Rajasthan, who was able to do that. This means that the 5 years that you spent in school could be transformed in a very short period of time to be able to give the confidence. And it's most important to not only engage the kids, but make them feel that they can do it. And as soon as you see kids who can do it, and we all know this, all of you have kids, and you can remember the turning point of when they began to read. And then they begin to show off. And then they begin to say, I'll read, Mom, you can wait. And I think that's the point that we need millions of Indian kids to go to. So first thing is understand the problem. Second thing is come up with a solution that's actually doable, and doable by most people, using the resources that we have. The third thing we do, I think, is create an army of people who believe in this, who can do it, and who can demonstrate it for other people. There are a lot of skeptics in the world. I'm sure there are some right now who say that you've spent 5 years in school and you couldn't do it. And these Pratham people say you can do it in 30 days. Like the Sarpanch, you probably need a demonstration. You probably need to see that this actually can happen. And so this army of doers and demonstrators, I think is what we have. And I'm very amazed myself. I've been in Pratham for almost 22 years. And I'll give you another little incident. Again, this was in UP. I was visiting some of the, we call them learning camps. And by the time I visited, it got dark, and I wanted to meet the entire team. We had about 20 people, and they gathered in a particular place. But by the time I got there, it was dark, and there was no electricity. So I started talking to the group, even though I couldn't see their face. And I could feel that there were a lot of young people. And I said that we've worked in this area now for this last 2 years. We've had tremendous success, but I think we need to move to the neighboring block. And even in the darkness, I could feel resistance. So one voice spoke from the back. It was a very young female voice. And she said, I have a different point of view. The confidence to say that, I think, was quite amazing. And she said, I can't move. So I said, why can't you move? She said, because I have 3 kids still left in my class. If I move, they will never learn. They need me. And I think this is what really typifies for me that this army of doers or believers or whatever is what I think gives a lot of people that energy that I won't move till my job is done. And my job will be done, just give me a little bit more of time. Head needs to understand what you're doing, my sarpanch, because once the head understands, you're going to do something. But it's not just enough for the head. You need your hands and legs to actually do it. It's not enough to think of a beautiful house. I think the house has to be built. And the third thing is your heart has to be in it as well. And I'm really fortunate and privileged that I work with a team that seems to have all of these 3 pieces and usually aligned. But that's not enough if you do it yourself. We are a big country. We have millions of children. We have many more people to infect. So the 4th thing we do is we take some of these elements and try to plant them inside the large public school system. I don't want to go into that whole story. Pradeep took me on a boat ride yesterday, and so I need a boat ride, and I need beautiful weather, which you have in Seattle. And if we are on a boat ride, I can tell you that story. So that's for next time. I want to move to the fact that this now can be done. It's a question of how many governments come on board, how we infect them, and how we move forward. And we have quite a lot of success in showing that what we do when we do it ourselves maybe reaches about a 50 percentage point difference in those 30, 40 days. But even with governments when we work, and our governments actually at the ground level, if you work with them, they do work well together, we can see even in those systems a substantial improvement. Our last set of data say that in a period of, let's say, 60 days, even within government programs, you can have 30, 35 percentage points difference. When Pratham works when we work by ourselves, it costs us 10, 12, depending on whether we put technology or not, dollars per kid for the year. When you work with governments, it's really nothing, because what we need is just the money that supports the Pratham people. So it's sometimes well below even $1 for each kid in a state to take them from being, like you saw Mira was, to what Mira is today. So let's say that the basic issue of how do you get literacy and numeracy, we know what to do. It's a question of how quickly people can take this up. So what's next? What's next is, I think, an idea that kids, once they have learned to read, once they can do basic arithmetic, once they've learned to work in groups, we do a lot of work where kids work in groups. They can do a lot by themselves. So now it's a question of where do we take them, how do we enable them to sustain what they have been able to gather, but also to be able to explore a very big, wide world that is there. And that's something that we are trying to do by organizing our children's groups, giving them technology, tablets, not saying that technology will solve all the problem, but having a human interaction, but not giving instruction, helping children choose what they want to do and giving them the right opportunity. And now I want to show you some of these kids, and let's hope this all works. We have a big tech team. So I'm going to take you to UP, to a village like Pradeep went to, and let's see if we can talk to the kids who are there. These are kids who've gone beyond the basic level, but now have tablets, and let's see what they do with them. So, are we ready? So, this is the first time we are doing this, and let's see if it works. This is a village in Sitapur district in UP. And Annapurni, if you're there, can you take us around the village?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm joining you live from Jalabad village in Uttar Pradesh. As you can see, paddy fields here. And this is an overall view of the village. This is a village house. And as I move ahead, this is the entry into the Jalabad village. Pratham has been implementing their X learning or hybrid learning program here, where students learn and conduct activities with the help of a digital device or the tablet. And as I move ahead, you can see the village temple, and right next to the temple is an excited group ready to speak to you.
Can we go to the group? Okay. गुड मॉर्निंग बच्चे. आप लोग वहां पे क्या कर रहे हो? थोड़ा सा अपना परिचय दे दो और बताओ कि आप लोग क्या कर रहे हो. आपके ग्रुप का नाम है पपीता. अच्छा, आप बता सकते हैं कि आप लोग ग्रुप में करते क्या हैं? अच्छा, ये बताइए कि दो चीज़ें बताइए मुझे. एक तो कि टैबलेट में क्या पढ़ना अच्छा लगता है. आई अपोलोजाइज टू द पीपल हु डोंट अंडरस्टैंड हिंदी, बट आई थिंक यूर. एक मिनट, मुझे खत्म करने दो. और दूसरी बात है, आप लोगों में आपस में झगड़ा नहीं होता है कि कौन टैबलेट कब इस्तेमाल करेगा? टैबलेट में क्या करना अच्छा लगता है? कौन बताएगा? अच्छा, फेवरेट वीडियो कौन सा है? आपके टैबलेट में बहुत वीडियोस हैं, सबसे अच्छा लगा आप लोगों को कौन सा वीडियो लगता है? हैं? स्केलेटन. दे लाइक द स्केलेटन वन द बेस्ट. तो थोड़ा सा बताओ कि टेबल पे आपने और क्या क्या रखा है, और उसमें से कोई एक बता सकता है कि आपने ये क्या बनाया और कैसे बनाया है? So these are all models that they have learned from watching the videos. अब आप लोग कोई एक कुछ जो बनाया है उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बता सकते हैं? बोलिए. So for all of you who have new products, you know you like talking about it. अच्छा, मैंने सुना है कि आप लोग टैबलेट से इंग्लिश भी सीखते हैं, ये सही है? तो मेरे साथ थोड़ा इंग्लिश में बात करेंगे? मेरे सामने आप लोगों को दिख नहीं रहा है, पर 200-300 लोग बैठे हुए हैं और वो सब आपकी इंग्लिश बात सुनेंगे. ओके, कौन बात करेगा? सिद्धार्थ, तुम बात करोगे? ओके. हेलो सिद्धार्थ.
Hello, man. How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
I am fine, thank you.
Where do you live, Siddharth?
I live in Jalalabad,
Where is Jalalabad?
district Sitapur, Uttar Pradesh.
Okay. What is your favorite color, Siddharth?
My favorite color is red.
And who is your best friend?
My best friend named Lokus.
Lavkush is the boy standing next to him, okay? What is your favorite hobby, Siddharth?
My favorite hobby is making videos.
Making videos. That is a very interesting hobby. आप लोग सब मिलके वीडियो बनाते हो? जरा बताओ क्या करते हो? बताओ.
गर्मियों में हमने एक वीडियो बनाया जिसका नाम था शरबत पियो ठंडक पाओ.
ओके. कैसे बनाया था बताओ?
पहले कैमरे में शूट किया, फिर उसकी कटिंग की, फिर उसे वीडियो में एडिट कर दिया, फिर उसे गैलरी में सेव कर दिया और हमारा वीडियो तैयार हो गया.
वाह वाह वाह. I think we need a clap for the video makers. सब लोग आपके लिए ताली बजा रहे हैं. अच्छा, आपके पीछे कौन खड़े हैं? एक मुझे नजर आ रहे हैं जो बच्चे नहीं लग रहे हैं, वो कौन है पीछे? नमस्ते बाबूलाल जी. आप जरा बताइए कि आप इनके कौन लगते हैं?
हमारी लड़की आशा है और हमारे लड़का सोनू.
अच्छा, तो आपको ये जो टैबलेट का कार्यक्रम चल रहा है, आपको क्या लगता है इसके बारे में?
बहुत बढ़िया. आपका धन्यवाद. ये जो हमारे गांव में नए बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं, हमको बहुत बड़ी खुशी हो रही है.
अच्छा.
हाँ, काम काज छोड़ के आज बैठे हैं आपके पास.
अच्छा.
आप बात करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. जो हमारे गांव में ऐसा कार्यक्रम चला, हमारे नवेश स्कूल बोलेंगे.
ठीक है, थैंक यू सबको. आप लोग स्कूल जाओगे अभी? कितने बज रहे हैं अभी? कितने बज रहे हैं देखो? स्कूल जाने में देर नहीं हो रही है? ओके, बाय. थैंक यू. I think big claps to our technology team at both ends. This is the first time we are doing this. We weren't sure if it worked or not. And one of the hardest things is that the kids actually want to talk a lot. And so the boy who explained about the thermos, the other day I was chatting with him and he said he has to explain everything in detail because how would you know how a thermos is made? And so what you heard was a very shortened version. I'm not going to say anything more. I think I've talked enough. Darshana, I've taken more than 20 minutes, but I think it's okay. What I'd like to do is, obviously we need your support. That's the reason I've come 10,000 miles. But even more, I'd like to do what Pradeep did. I met Pradeep in Bangalore, and we were having this very, professional type talk. And I asked him what he was doing in Bangalore. Apparently he has some big business he runs there. And I said, can you take one day off? Because it's important to go meet these kids and to see what is possible. And Pradeep went to Lucknow, took a day, and met them. So I don't know how many people are in this room, 200, 300, 400. I'd like to invite all of you. Many of you go to India in the winter. Please come and visit us. Come and meet these kids so that they can tell you everything that they have to tell you and not depend on me to tell their story. And thank you very, very much for having me here.